Morning folks, today we have another video in our recent mini-series of me and Andy doing things, just the two of us that normally Anna would be there for because she is off at university. Today we have a trip to see his dietitian. Now Andy's diet is something we're regularly asked about here on the channel. For those of you who aren't familiar with it at the moment, he's pretty much survived for the last 5 years on nothing but salt and vinegar Walker's crisps, with the occasional extras that get added in from time to time, but then he'll just start refusing again. So when I first met him about 5 years ago, it was chocolate digestive biscuits. He's gone through little chocolate breakaway biscuits. At the moment he sometimes has Rice Krispies with some custard, which we're able to add some vitamin powder to that the dietitian prescribed about 6 months ago, maybe not quite that long, and that's been working really well, and it's one of the reasons why he's looking a lot healthier now, got a lot more colour in him, because he's getting some vitamins into his body for pretty much the first time in his life. He'll occasionally have the McDonald's burger buns like we saw on the video from the weekend when we went up to Grantham. What else does he eat? Not a lot else. He tried some toast at his respite place over the weekend, and one of the things we're currently working on with the dietitian is trying to come up with a plan for how to get some protein into his system. It has been suggested we could try protein shakes. We got some, he tried them, we tried them with him for weeks, and they were just making him sick. He would take a sip, be sick. He weren't getting anywhere with them, and he just started refusing to take them. So I don't know if we're going to come up with another plan today or whether this is going to be our last session, because pretty much the last time we were there they tried to discharge us because, as far as they were concerned, he wasn't at a dangerously low weight anymore, which is the reason he was sent to a dietitian in the first place. His weight's gone back up to a normal level for him, and he was getting vitamins, which is progress on where we were. They don't ever expect him to eat a normal balanced diet because, like a lot of children with autism, he won't. He just absolutely refuses. But I am hoping they've got any other tricks up their sleeve just to try and get something else into him, because we're fully aware that he shouldn't just be eating crisps, but at the same time we're happy he's eating, so it's finding that balance. Before we do all that though, I need to take the girls back to their mums. They've been here for most of the last week or so, on and off. I know they've not been on camera the whole time, but they've been here pretty much for the last week. They're now at their mums for a week, and so we'll say goodbye to them, and then me and him are off to Spalding this time to go to the hospital and meet the dietitian again. Okay, so we can't say goodbye to the girls because they're both lazy, almost, well, one's a teenager, one's a lazy almost teenager, and they've both still got their pyjamas on. So we'll say goodbye to their stuff, which is in the back of the car. We'll see them in about a week. We're waiting.
Yeah.
He's not amused. You alright?
Yeah.
3 different receptions. I think we're now in the right place. But it's completely deserted. Sorted. He's a little bit agitated and worked up because it was a different dietitian, which we weren't expecting. Because we're in a different place, we normally go to Grantham for this, but we thought it was going to be the same person but in a different place. But we actually got a completely different person as well. Come on, Andy. He likes automatic doors. But she seemed quite happy with how he was doing. Happy with his diet as it is at the moment. She's given us a sheet that we can work through to try and introduce new foods into his diet. I'll explain that to you when we get home, because he's very keen to get his reward and get to a church now. But overall, she seemed fairly happy. He's put on a little bit of weight, 34.4 kilos now, which I'll translate that into normal human weights when I get home. But I know he was 33 something last time, but I don't actually, these kilos mean nothing to me, but we'll work it out when we get home. But at least he's definitely put some on. If he's gained about a kilo, I think that's about it's 2.2 pounds to a kilo, so it's not a massive weight gain, but it's a weight gain, and that's important based on where he was earlier in the year. But now we're going to go to a church. You ready for the church?
Yeah.
Good. And all of that he managed to do without his DS, because he forgot it. Did you leave it in the car? Is the DS in the car or at home?
In the car.
It's in the car. So he's just sat in the waiting room, passed through 3 different receptionists, met a new person, and sat through that whole appointment without his DS because he forgot it and left it in the car, and has now gone straight in and grabbed it to the church. Hello.
Hello.
Guess where we are? Looks like they're doing some kind of work to it as well. But fingers crossed, just a quick lap. Back home, I'm starving. Having these appointments at lunchtime, not a good idea. If you're watching from the NHS, don't schedule appointments for lunchtime. I'm a greedy, hungry man. Where's he gone? Of course he squeezed through the tiny gap. completely oblivious to the fact there's a guy fixing the window behind us. I thought that was one of the things he liked. Apparently not.
You're fine.
Is that good?
Yeah. Time.
Time to go home?
Yeah. Time.
Sounds like a good plan. These quick laps of churches we've started doing over the last week or so, I'm on board with that. This is a good development. Well, that concludes the hard bit of half term. Anna's going to be home in about 10-15 minutes. She was on the bus as we were driving back from Spalding. I thought she'd actually get back before us because we stopped at the church, but it was so quick, we've beaten her slightly. I'm going to grab some lunch, and then the next day and a half is all about getting a bulk of work done, because then on Friday we head down to London for the weekend. Well, I was about to tell you about this, but now there's a helicopter going over. It's a massive military one. That's what happens when you live in an area that's got like 3 big RAF bases all really close by. That happens a lot. So, as promised, I have this sheet that they gave me at the dietitian called Step-by-Step Guide to Food Acceptance. It's a 9-step guide towards getting Andy to start trying new foods, and it's actually, I mean, it all seems really logical and sensible, and we're going to start it and see if it works, and it could be really cool if it does. So I'm not going to read the whole thing out, but just to take you through the steps, because if you're in a similar situation where you've got a kid with autism, or even just a kid who is a fussy eater and you're trying to introduce new foods to the diet, this step-by-step guide seems like it's a cracking idea. And even if it gets him eating one extra food that he doesn't eat now, and the dietitian even said, even if it's chocolate, you know, it doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's something new, that first step towards introducing something new into his diet is absolutely crucial towards very slowly, very gradually broadening his diet. And she said it could take years to start making some progress, but if we stick at it and follow this quite strictly, then progress should, in theory, be made. It's certainly the best route to progress, if progress is ever likely to happen. So, step 1 is choose a new food, and then take an absolutely tiny amount of it. She said like fingernail size, and not my fingernails, she made the point, his fingernails. Tiny amount, so a pea, a Smartie or an M&M, a cornflake, something really, really, really small. Put the new food in the same place on the same plate every time food is offered. We don't have to touch it. It doesn't have to touch his existing food. We don't have to mention it's there. But when he sits down to have his crisps, make sure, I think a cornflake might be the thing that we try it with, because he already eats Rice Krispies and it's fairly similar. So we'll make sure there's always a cornflake on the plate, in the same spot on the plate, not touching his existing foods, but it's just there. And then initially, we don't do anything else. We just make sure it's always there, so he gets used to it being around, learns that it's not a scary thing to have around. Step 2 is then moving on to encouraging him to smell the food. So we can do that by smelling it ourselves and offer it to him to smell, but just get to the point where he's happy smelling it. I don't think that'll be a problem. He's already several steps past that with some foods already, but she said even if he is, go right back to the beginning, start with it just being there, then move on to him smelling it. Once he's happy to smell it, then we encourage him to pick it up using a fork or a spoon. So he's still not touching it, but he can use a spoon. He uses a spoon for his Rice Krispies. He prefers to use his fingers, but I think it makes sense. 2 birds with 1 stone. Let's get him using a fork or a spoon if it's a cornflake, I guess. Just scoop it up, have a look at it, maybe bring it to his nose and smell it off the spoon, and then we move on to step 4. Step 4 is encouraging him to touch it with his fingers. He doesn't necessarily have to pick it up, just touch it, take his hand away. Does that, loads of praise, job done for the day. We do it for a couple more days, move on to the next step. The next step is to encouraging him to pick it up with his fingers. So again, he just has to hold it. He doesn't have to put it in his mouth, he doesn't have to put it near his nose, just hold it. So pick it up, put it down, job done, praise, praise, praise. Try again a couple of times, etc. Then on to step 6. Step 6 is touching the food to his face initially, so somewhere on his face. When he's comfortable doing that, touching it to his lips, perhaps get him to kiss it. It says kiss on here. And the final part of step 5 or 6 or whatever it is just getting him to lick it. So just lick the cornflake, put it back down again. So it's in his fingers, he licks it, puts it back down. He already does lick some foods, so he's capable of doing that already, and there are foods that we can probably do this with fairly quickly, I hope. It even says in this, some children may do several steps at one meal, others it might take several days for each step, and I think depending on what the food is, we might make slightly faster or slower progress with some foods. After we've got him comfortable licking it, the next step is to put the food in his mouth. He doesn't have to eat it necessarily, just put it in his mouth. So even if it's just putting it on his tongue, taking it off again, putting it in his mouth, spitting it out, as long as it goes in his mouth, much praise, even if it gets spat out. Then the next step is to just take a tiny bite of it. So even though it's only a cornflake, just the tiniest little bite, like the bite he had of the burger at McDonald's a few days ago that we saw him do. That's like step 8 on this, if we can get him doing that with stuff. So just tiny little bite. That's it. We don't ask him to do a second bite. That's where we went wrong at McDonald's. He did it once, and we asked him to do it a couple more times. He ended up retching. Just one tiny little bite, and then gradually, really slowly, over a period of days and weeks, not minutes, encourage him to have a second bite and to take slightly more and slightly more and slightly more. If it seems like it's going well, just gradually increase the amount that we're asking him to eat until it becomes integrated into his diet. She said if we pick a food and 2 weeks down the line we're not making any progress on this, forget that food, move on to something else. If he gets really stressed out with it, if he's sick, maybe give him a few days off, then start it up again. But the important thing is to take it slow, follow the steps in order, praise him when he completes every step. So even if we're 10 days in and he's still reluctantly licking it, he gets praised for doing that. We don't moan at him. We wouldn't anyway, but he shouldn't be criticised for not yet taking a bite, even if it's the 4th day in a row where he's just licked it and he still won't put it in his mouth. He still gets praised for licking. Licking is still better than what he's doing now. And hopefully, eventually, it'll start introducing these foods into his diet. I really hope that if we follow this, and we're gonna give it a try, that maybe, where are we now, towards the end of October, maybe within a month, it would be quite nice to think that in addition to having Rice Krispies, he perhaps also has cornflakes as well. Or Cocoa Pops, you know, something really, so perhaps Cocoa Pops is an even better one to start with than cornflakes, because it's a Rice Krispie, which he likes, with chocolate on, which he also kind of likes. So I think Cocoa Pops might be the one. I'll talk to Anna. But this, really positive thing to come out from the dietitian. And as always, no pressure, no criticism. She's happy that he's put on weight. She's happy that he's continuing to eat. He's not dropping back down to a dangerous weight. There's no pressure to force anything else on him, and that's a really important part of the message. And this, I like. Okay, prepare for a little bit of a cop-out to end today's vlog. It's 11:15 at night. I've got the opportunity to have my first early night in ages, and I'm sat awake waiting for this to tick over to 15,000 subscribers so that I can talk to you lot about it on the vlog. And then I had an epiphany. Kev, it will still be 15,000 subscribers if you wait until the morning. So we're going to leave it on 14,984. I'm going to assume by the time I wake up in the morning, and certainly by the time you lot see this vlog, we'll have hit 15,000. And I want to say thank you. So thank you for 15,000 subscribers. Let me just read a couple of statistics for you that I can do that are accurate. In the last 28 days, just to give you an idea of how October has gone on this channel, in the last 28 days, as of right now, at 11:15 on Wednesday night, we've had 1.43 million views on the channel in 28 days. We've gained 10,142 new subscribers, and we've had over 6.6 million minutes of watch time in 28 days. Those statistics are crazy. Thank you very much, everybody. If you have enjoyed today's vlog, please make sure you pop a like on there for me. Subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more. And thank you very much for watching. Just one more check. It went up to 14,985. I'm going to go to bed though.